All right, so welcome everybody to the CYEP Partner TA webinar. And we have Aaron Hacker that's with us, so
Good afternoon.
good afternoon. And I mentioned, if you just joined us, I do have the phone lines unmuted. Figured that way, especially since we have a smaller group, if you wanted to ask any questions, you could do that. I do ask that if you aren't speaking, if you could keep your phone lines muted, and then that helps with keeping down on the background noise. So today, what I was planning on doing was just covering some of, and if you haven't checked in, I'll go ahead and make that available in just a moment, after we're done at the end of the webinar. But the plan for today was to go over some of the updates that we've had. I've been responding. There are a few people that have had some technical issues, and so I've been working with Cody to get those resolved. So hopefully if they aren't already resolved for you, then they will be in the very, very near future, because he's been working on those. And so I just want to cover some of those items and then cover the report that we talked about last week. It's out on production. Part of it is, and I can show you another tab of it that is on test and give you an update on that, on those areas. So I don't know, Aaron, was there anything in particular that you wanted to start out with?
Nothing in particular other than just to remind people that the continuation application for Youth Employment Program is out there, and it does have a due date of May 4th. So just if you have any questions about that, let me know. But otherwise, just a reminder that it's out there.
Okay, thanks. Okay, there was a question. This is an update that Cody had pushed out today. One person had noticed that and I'm on production right now, so you can see the numbers are filling in, the out-of-school youth area wasn't populating for them, and so we looked at that. It was looking at the wrong out-of-school youth section, and so he made that update, and so that's available in the section. We also added another one word, which hopefully will clarify where this customer type comes from, because we have a customer type, in the application where they identify what they are in the application. We have a customer type where you verify eligibility, and this particular customer type comes from when you are actually enrolling the person or studying their enrollment status. And so that's what these two informational lines are. It's all of these people who have an enrollment status. Of those people, this is the grouping that is classified as in-school youth, and this is the group that's classified as out-of-school youth. So hopefully that makes sense. We have made some updates over time to the progress page and little things here and there. And so I just wanted to point out that Cody, it's on his radar this week to update. I noticed when I was looking at production data that some of these people right here, I'm not going to click on them because they're real people and I don't want to expose their information, but some of these people are not marked as verified as eligible, and so they shouldn't even be populating down in this area. So I do know that is not populating some of those people the right way, so Cody is looking at that, and then also making sure that this red section is populating. The people are moving to that section. So those are some updates that we are going to be making to the dashboard. If you haven't already kind of gone through and started going through some of these areas to, get familiar with the dashboard and how it's set up, we have quite a few people here that don't have their initial eligibility verified. So you'll want to make sure that you do that because it does impact your performance report. So, please do that. And then, you'll want to make sure they're enrolled in that because that impacts your performance report as well. So if you haven't become familiar with your dashboard, please do. And know that this week we will have some additional updates that are going to be made to this. And so if you notice the ones that I just talked about that are a little bit off, know that those will be updated. Is this information stuff that we have to fill out in each person's file individually? Yes. So let me go to a test. Let's close that out. Sorry about that. I'll cut that out of the recording. But let me go ahead and go to a person in test. So now I am in test. And for this information for each person individually, this is their application. So this is what the person completes themselves. And once they do that, then it'll update this section and you can look at the information. Then you'll have the progress page. On the progress page, we want to make sure that, okay, good question. So we'll get to that in just a second. So the progress page, you want to make sure that you have a contact identified for the person. And so you can just simply go to that area, select the contact, and then they're added to that list. The verify initial eligibility, looks like Project Office said, what about the youth that signed up on WorkNet and never engaged in the program or they've dropped out? We have some different things that you can do. So let's just say that this is a test person. So as I go through the information, this is the stuff that was populated. This first column right here was the stuff that was populated by the youth they self-identified meeting this requirement. So it'll be automatically checked. And then as you go through and you talk to them and you have the documentation available to verify this information, then you just go through and check, 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 and then check, 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 check for the other eligibility requirements. This particular line item right here, it needs to be answered because it's part of the performance report that's being turned in, but it doesn't impact the eligibility piece. It's just, we just want you to ask that question and to verify, the question was answered the way that's accurate, and then you can hit save. Okay, so that in this case you'll see it's verified eligible. The other option is that if I uncheck something, I could, or change the requirements, it'll say like verified not eligible. But in your case, if you have a person that has signed up in WorkNet and then they kind of dropped off the face of the earth and they won't return any phone calls, then you can click this little button right here that says unable to verify the information. And then that will take them out of the list. Let me go back over to the dashboard here. And then, let's see here. Okay, well, if we don't have it on this link, we need to add it. It's on here. I thought we already added it. Initial program register. It's in your performance report, but I need to have Cody update this dashboard for some reason. There will be a line item that says is unable to verify this information. So for your part of it, just go ahead and if you can't contact them or if they're not responsive, just click unable to verify, and I'll make sure Cody has that line item on the dashboard as well. Now, if mark those or move those out of the main view, that will happen because with your dashboard, it provides a filtered list. So whenever you say either they're verified as not eligible or verified or unable to verify, it's going to put them in this gray line. So they're kind of like grayed out. So they're not allowed to move any further. They're kind of checked out. You're not going to have to deal with them anymore at that point. And so if they are verified as eligible, that's a key thing. If they are verified as eligible, then they'll show up in your enrollment status and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I mentioned before, like with this 9, they shouldn't be showing up there, and that's something that's a big one that Cody needs to fix for me, because this is your filtered list of grouping of people. So when you say get them out of the main view, they'll still be in your customer list just because they're one of the customers and we're not going to like remove them from the system. But you'll want to use your dashboard to get to your filtered list of customers of what you need to do with this person. So when I say that, you should be able to look at this dashboard and say, okay, the yellow people, the yellow lines are the ones with this little triangle icon. Those are the ones I need to take action on. So these 258 people, I need to go ahead, that's across the state, not just one person. But, if I have a person in that line item, I would click that list, I would get a filtered list of my customers, and then I could go in and easily, update their contact information, and then they'll move out of that line. They won't show up in that line anymore. Same thing with enrollment status. If I see like I have 9 people that need to have their enrollment status set, then I'll go ahead and set that enrollment status, and they'll move out of that line to either on a waiting list, enrolled, declined to participate, or not willing to enroll, whatever the category is that was selected. Does that make sense? Or does that answer your question? I filter my dashboard view though. Well, it's already going to be filtered to your location. So let me do this in test. So yours, I can't remember exactly who I have people under. I think it's Austin people. So your dashboard should already be filtered. So when you come to this dashboard, it should say Project Oz. And again, I'm in test, so I think I only have people under Austin peoples right now. And so it would already be filtered, and then so you're listing, all these people are your filter list. So you could see who hasn't completed their application or they haven't submitted it. Sometimes people will complete their application, but they just don't hit the submit button. So that's why we have this up here, so you can see if people just didn't hit the submit button. Or if they're not eligible, then they'll go to the grayed out line. We want to make sure that their eligibility has been verified. So I can click on that, get the filtered list. So if I click on this, it already gives me the filtered list of people. And then I can just go to that list. I might have 14 people, but I only have 2 people that need to have their partner contact information updated. So I just click on the 2 people, and I can see which 2 people still need their contact information. So that's what I mean by getting a filtered list of customers. Does that help you? Okay. All righty. Well, those are good questions. I'm really glad that you asked that, because I'm sure that if you had those questions, other people did too. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, the other thing to know is that you can see the enrollment history here. So once you have verified they're eligible, verified they're not eligible, you can update this information as far as their enrollment status and their customer type. And we know that their customer type could change through the program. So you would be able to update this section as far as the customer type. And we do have this where you can see who it was updated by and when it was updated. So you can see if there's any change to their enrollment status. Okay, another thing that we added, I can't remember if I covered this last time or not, but while we're here, I'll just go ahead and cover it. We do have the case note task item, so you can select the type of case note, what it's for. The newer item was adding a contact date. So whenever you go to create a case note, it's just going to default and put in today's date. But let's say you're adding in the contact dates from like last week or on Monday, you can go ahead and change these contact dates, that date. And you know, just your subject and your message. And let me just go ahead and do this real quick. And then I'm just going to save it as a case note and hit save. And so then we also updated the display for the case note. So you can see what the task was, the contact date, the subject, the notes. And you can see if it was just saved as a case note without sending a message, and if it was sent as a message. And then you can see who did it and when the case note was created. There was a question, I think it was with this program, that said that I have added some case notes, but now I can't unadd them. I can't edit them. And with our case notes, you cannot edit the case notes. We use this case note tool as a global tool throughout workNet, and whenever it populates some other systems, and so once a case note is written, we can't edit that case note, but you can just add in another case note with a correction.
Yeah, I had mentioned in the past that we kind of treat these case notes almost like part of a permanent record, you know, and a medical record or something like that. We wouldn't go back and erase something in someone's chart. We'd just put a mark through it and make the correction. And so you might just add a corrective note to say, you know, previous note was inaccurate. You know, and you could list the date that the original note was made and what it should have been, and that way we've got a record of all the notes, but we can make changes as necessary just through future notes.
Yep. Okay. There's one other thing that I wanted to cover, because I know there were a couple people that it was sporadic, it seemed like, that had some customers that, for whatever reason with their account, they were getting an error message whenever they would go to do the pre-assessment. And what I wanted to tell you was that Cody thinks he found out why a few of them were doing that, and I believe, we hope, that he has made a correction that will cover everybody across the board. But if you still have people like that, that whenever they hit the pre-assessment, they're getting an error message, please let us know, and we'll get that taken care of right away. It's just narrowing down the different options of what could possibly be giving some people an error message and others not. So, but I think he has that all fixed, so let's just keep our fingers crossed. And the other thing that I noticed, I did see a question about this, and Erin, you can comment on this. I'm not sure if you saw it come in from InfoEd or not, but it was just brought to my attention today that there was a person that wanted to have a pre-assessment score as like removed, because I don't really know. I doesn't ask the question back personally, but I just want to say, if a person has a pre-assessment score, I don't necessarily think you need to have it removed, because the pre-assessment score, it's just your starting out point, and where the score that matters more is if with your post-assessment, you want to be able to show with the post-assessment that you have had knowledge gained. So you want to show that with the post-assessment that the score is higher than the pre-assessment, or at least they have to get 80%. And that's part of your performance report. But I just wanted to kind of make that clear to everybody. Just because if they scored low on the the pre-assessment, we don't necessarily want to remove that pre-assessment score.
That's correct.
And I'm not sure who that really applies to. I just saw the question was given to me today, so I just thought I'd bring it up in case anybody else had a similar request or question about that. Okay. So the question that we have from guest 2 is the CYEP Periodic Performance Doc new to the program? Yep. And so, yes.
So just to be clear, the report, the concept of the report is not new to the program. That we were always supposed to submit performance reports. It's just that the actual tool that Natasha and I have been working on, more her than me, but the tool that we've been developing is fairly new, and I think we talked about that a little bit last week. But.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and so the document that is in the webinar, it is also, I just added it today to the partner guide as well, is I still have it marked as draft because we're not finished with everything yet with that, and anyway, I just wanted to make it available to you. So there's some things that, even like as Erin and I were talking about, and I was talking about with my programmer, just trying to kind of wrap your head. It's not rocket science, but you got to think about some, or at least I have to think about it whenever I'm going through each of these sections, just to kind of make sure I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm looking at this area, and I've done this. It's really not all that complicated. It just takes a little bit of thinking about.
And there's a lot to it. We have quite a few performance measures that we have to make sure that we're able to clearly define what we're asking for and what we're going to consider as meeting the performance measure. And so some of that just is, when we design a program and we think up what we want to be able to measure, we'll put that on paper and put that in your contract. But then sometimes when it comes to the practicalities of actually how we do that, it's tough. So we've been working out something that I think is workable, that's going to answer the questions. I do want to make it clear, too, that anytime we start talking about reports, people get nervous. They'll say, well, what if my report doesn't look good, or what if the numbers reflect poorly in my report? Ultimately, that is part of the purpose of the performance reporting, is to be able to show that that the things you're doing, the grant activities you're engaged in, are actually serving youth, and that you're meeting the expectations. But this first time, this tool that we're going to use to report here is fairly new, and we still have to figure out exactly how it's going to work and what numbers are going to look like, and make sure that they're accurate and that that they're telling us what we need to know. Also, some of the things that we use to generate the report, some of the information new to the workNet tools. And so, for example, if you haven't been putting this information in there because the tool didn't exist to put the information, or it wasn't fully fully ready, it is going to make your numbers look a little funny. And so I don't want anybody to panic or worry and say, well, this report, I'm worried about how this report's going to look, and it's going to it's going to make it look like I'm not doing anything in the program. So I don't want you to worry about that at this point. The first go around, this is where it's new to us. We're testing it. We're trying to make sure it functions effectively. We may have to tweak it between now and the next report, but it's a great starting place. I've been really impressed with what Natasha and her team's been able to put together so far, and I think it's going to be a great starting place for us and to be able to build on, and eventually, hopefully after a cycle or two of this, that we'll have it where we are confident that it's fairly accurate and that the system is working the way it is. So they have just had a ton to do to get the workNet system in place and to get some of these tools that we've requested built. They just have been really working hard to make those customizations for us, and I think that hopefully soon, once most of that is in place, it will be more minor changes and not major changes all the time. So hopefully everything will start to kind of come together. But until it does, don't sweat the report too much, okay?
Thanks. Okay. I wanted everybody to know that this is out on production, okay? And I say that carefully, is that, we're going to look at it in test, put all these different scenarios out there in test to look at the different numbers. But I'll tell you what, there's nothing like real production numbers, because there's just the mass quantities of people and the various scenarios, and then just like really deep diving into all those different scenarios and different combinations of things that can occur. So we do have it out on production, at least the enrollment piece. Cody does have this assessment tab piece that is on test, and he will move it to production. The reason why he hasn't moved it down out to production yet for us to look at is because it's like super slow, so he has to speed it up. It's just pulling information from so many places that it's slow, and he has to get that speed up before we start doing it in production. And okay, so you can look at this. When you log in, you'll see this little icon up here that says report, and you can start looking at this. We will be looking at this too. The idea, again, is like our dashboard. It doesn't have, but there's a couple things you'll see here, is that we still need to put in like your goals. So right now, all these are just 0, so it doesn't mean that your goal is really 0. But whenever this is filtered down to you and we get these goals in here, then you'll be able to see those numbers. And you'll be able to see like, if you're on target for meeting it or not. We have, we'll have color coding onto this area so you can see, if you are like on target to meet the goal, if you're like off track to meet the goal, or if you've met the goal. And we have the performance measure area bolded. And this will be the line item that is color coded. And so I just want to let you know, like this is the area where you like really need to focus on, okay? And if we can do that in a way, maybe we need to put a little icon next to it, or maybe a star, or whatever we want to do. But I want you to know that this is the line item that is related to your performance measure. These items right here, it's just to help you know where the other people are. So if you have, like, well, I know I have more people enrolled in my program than this, and then you can look at it and, you look at this line item and you're like, oh, it's because their eligibility is not verified. Let me just go ahead and do that. So you can do that filtered list. You can go click on the number, go to the filtered list of people, and update verifying their eligibility. So we wanted to make sure that we added these line items that identify where all these people are for each one of these performance areas, because when you look at just the performance areas and then you try to figure out what's going on with all these different people, and you're trying to say, well, I don't know, Natasha is in this line item and that item and this and that, all these different line items. The idea is that we have everybody put where they are filtered and where they're supposed to be. So if you just want to deal with verified eligibility and enrolled, you can look at that and just deal with verified eligibility and enrolled. And then you can move on to the next one as far as place. You can move on to the next one as what we have here, meeting eligibility criteria. I'll have to look at these numbers because I don't even know how this is possible. But, enrolled and not verified eligible. Okay, never mind, sorry. I need to look at these numbers. This might have been early on, these people right here. Because now we have it locked down that in order to be enrolled, you have to be verified eligible. So but anyway, the whole point is that it's good to be able to see this, because, when I look at this area, that this is a red flag for me. I should be able, this number to me should always be 0. But it might be like I said, like the initial people that are when we first started. Okay, and then I need to have him bold this section. But anyway, that's how these work. So you can start looking at your numbers. Again, as Erin said, don't get super concerned. But if you notice that somebody is falling into the wrong section, then you can let us know, and then they can have Cody working on updating those. So just to let you know that Cody also has the assessment section out there. Again, it's on test. As soon as he speeds that up, because it gets kind of bogged down here whenever you get large numbers of people, and it's looking at all these different places where all these different assessments are and trying to pull it in, then he will, it gets slowed down. So as soon as he speeds that up, or finds a way, maybe it might have to be broken into like different tabs within this page to speed that up, then we'll push that out to production as well. Okay. Now this is your opportunity. Again, I just wanted to kind of show this to you so you could start thinking about it, getting familiar with the dashboards in this report, so you can kind of see where your people are, so you can start, updating their information in their account. Are there any questions? Okay.
I think it looks really good. I wanted to encourage people to, as you check these numbers and you go through some of this, if you do notice that you think there are things that aren't adding up, please be sure to let us know. Send an email to info@illinoisworknet.com so we can check on those things, and we can try to make sure that the data that's coming out is accurate. And so there's just nothing like a real-world test here. And so now that it's out, we want to make sure that it's right as best as we can. Natasha, are we on for next week?
Yes.
All right. I will tell you there's a possibility that I may not be available next week. I am actually out of the office again. Just bad timing for me on Wednesday this next week. I'm going to try to join the webinar remotely, but if for some reason I'm not present, I apologize. I usually try to catch the recorded webinars if I'm not present so I can keep up on this, but thanks for bearing with me on that. Looks like maybe Eric has question or something to add?
Well, thank you.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, we
And then
appreciate that.
next time it'll probably be, again, more about like following up, because I'm sure people will have something, with the report. We haven't done extensive testing with it, especially in production. So I'm sure people will have questions. And so next week I anticipate having more of an update on any of the updates that we've made based on your feedback. But if you go through things and you notice that, either something doesn't make sense or, you have questions, I'd like to use that time also to be able to allow you to ask questions and be able to follow up and everything during that time period.
All right. Well, have a good afternoon. We will see you again next week, and let us know if you have anything between now and then. Thanks. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.